All right. I'm assuming by the sound of the colored pencils that we have finished writing. Okay? All right. We are going to read that one out loud together. Remember, the word is rational. Okay, that's how we say it. All right, so on the count of 3, let's read that sentence out loud, the success criteria. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. All right, what 2 operations are we doing today? Add and subtract. And we know subtract is just add, but we distribute a negative, right? There's no difference between the 2, okay? What's the word rational mean again? Fraction. So we're doing polynomial fractions is really another way we could say that, right? So we're doing, it's going to have variables on the top, variables on the bottom. We're learning how to add and subtract those things, okay? We can do this. It's not that difficult, all right? We're working up to the Monday lesson, or the Monday-Tuesday lesson is solving equations with rationals, okay? So we're kind of working our way into slowly, all right? So we've done multiply and divide all week. We're going to try to knock out add and subtract here. All right, so it wants me to identify excluded values. Okay, so we're going to kind of step through this together a little bit. Let me get there. Okay, so excluded values, does it tell us? Oh, read that sentence to yourself really quick. Okay, so that sentence that's under explore, read this to yourself. Okay, it tells you what excluded values are. It's what makes the denominator 0. Are we allowed to divide by 0? We can't divide by 0, right? Our computer explodes, our paper explodes, we divide by 0, right? We're just not allowed to do it, okay? So, if we have something, a number that would make our denominator divide by 0, and it shows up in an answer, as in when we solve an equation, it would be considered an excluded value, okay? All right, so in part A, it says the denominator of the expression is, so what's the denominator of that expression? X minus 1, okay? All right, it says since division is not defined, or division by 0 is not defined, excluded values for this expression are all the values that make the denominator equal to 0. So they took that denominator and they set it equal to 0. How would I move that 1 to the other side? Add it, okay? So I would know that 1 is an excluded value, okay? All right, and then it wants us to start simplifying the expression by factoring. All right, so we've got, what kind of factoring is this in the numerator here? Good, I heard it. Difference of squares, okay? What's the square root of 1? 1. What's the square root of x squared? X, make 1a and 1a. Negative, good. Okay, then the next thing I would do, it says divide out terms common to both the numerator and the denominator. They did something goofy here. All right, so they kept this. Do you see how they pulled out a negative 1 out of this and they flipped the signs? They did that, so what happens next? What can I do with the x minus 1s? They cancel, right? And then this division comes up here. So it would be written as negative 1 plus x or negative 1 plus or minus x if I distributed the negative through. So the simplified, this is a lot. This is why I don't like the textbook sometimes. Lots of stuff repeated and repeated. So the simplified expression is this whenever x does not equal 1. Okay? Then it's asking me about the domain and the range for the function. The numerator and the denominator. Okay. The domain would be all the x values except this one. Okay, I'm not going to worry about range. Oh, range is going to be everything. So domain is all real numbers except x equals 1. And range would just be all the real numbers because there's no exceptions for all real numbers. That says all. And real. Okay. Oh, I don't have the reflect question. Perfect. Okay. That's a little mini lesson on excluded values. We're going to work more with that on in the Monday lesson. Okay. We are going to go to this explain to. Okay. All right. So we're going to take a baby step. All right. Before we actually add and subtract things, we're going to work with denominators for a little bit. Okay. So I want you to read all of that little paragraph and the box because it gives us some instructions. Okay. So read that for me. I'll give you about a minute and a half, 90 seconds. Read through it. Okay, so much like when we have a number, okay, we're going to find the least common multiple of the factors to create the least common denominator, okay? So we're going to do this off to the side with numbers first. They give you some English instructions. I'm going to change it up a little bit and give you some a technique that I use that tends to work, and it's very colorful, so it's going to use red and blue, okay? So we're going to start with, off to the left side, we're going to add together 1/6 plus 1/8. And I'm going to use a slightly different thing with this to explain it with numbers before I explain it with the variables, okay? I am going to factor these, meaning I need to know what multiplies to 6 and what multiplies to 8. So what times what is 6? 3 and 2, okay? And what times what is 8? 2 and 4, perfect, okay? So I am going to create the least common denominator. And you want the least common denominator because then it's less canceling, sometimes less reducing in the end. Okay? So in red, actually no, in blue, I want you to circle what matches in the denominator. So what am I going to circle that's in both denominators? 2. Anything I circle in blue, I am allowed to write down 1 time as part of my least common denominator. Okay? Everything that's left over, I'm going to underline in red. So I get 3 and I get 4. We are going to write down everything that is underlined in red. Okay? All right. This is the part that people find usually most confusing here, okay? This is the part that people struggle with, okay? You have to do some comparing, okay? So my goal is to create an equivalent fraction here, an equivalent fraction here to this new least common denominator, okay? So I compare. On this denominator, I have 2, 3, 4. In this denominator, I have 3, 2. So what's missing out of this one compared to this one? So if I look at this denominator here and I look at this denominator here, what's different? Okay, so I've got a 3, got a 2. What's missing? 4. So that's what I need to multiply top and bottom by to get an equivalent fraction. Okay? So across the top, I would have 4 times 1, which is 4. Okay? All right. I'm going to do this again with the other denominator. Okay? Use a different color. We'll use light blue. All right, I'm going to compare this denominator to this denominator. I'm going to look at what matches, and whatever is missing, that's what I'm going to multiply by. All right? So I have 2. I have 4. What's missing? 3. So I'm going to multiply technically top and bottom by 3. My bottom's already taken care of because I already written my least common denominator. I'm keeping this plus sign in between. What's 1 times 3? 3. Okay? All right. So if I add and multiply here, what's 4 plus 3? 7. And then let's see. 2 times 3 is 6 times 4 is 24. Okay? think about what we had here originally, okay? Because I want to take you back to what you knew and connect it, okay? So originally I had 6 and 8, and if we have a common denominator of 24, what would I have had to multiply the 6 by to get to 24? 4. What would I have had to multiply the 8 by? Isn't that what we did? Yeah, I just showed you a different way to do it because guess what? We're going to be using variables, not numbers, okay? So it won't be quite as easy to pick that up, okay? All right, we're going to practice just finding the least common denominators and writing equivalent fractions, okay, for a couple of examples. Actually, no, all we're going to do is the least common denominator. We're never going to write the equivalent fraction. Just going to find the least common denominator, okay? So the first thing I might need to do is factor the denominator, okay? I think that told us that in the box. It said factor completely, write any repeated factors as powers. Fantastic, okay. All right. I am going to start by putting out, I'm going to start writing it sort of as a fraction, and I'm going to put my LCD under the fraction bar, okay? All right, I'm going to start factoring this. What type of factoring is this first denominator here? GCF, good. Okay, what is my greatest common factor there? 3. What's left behind? Perfect. Okay. We're going to look at this second denominator. What kind of type of factoring? GCF again. What's the biggest number? What is my GCF? 4. I get x plus what left behind? 7. Good. All right. Is there anything I can circle that matches? The x is like the killing kittens, right? I cannot break up the addition subtraction. So it has to be x minus 5 and x plus 7. The x's don't match. Okay? All right, so in this case, I would underline everything in red and everything would get put in my LCD. Okay? So I'm going to put 3 in there. I tend to put the numbers up front that are just numbers. I would put 4 up there. I put x minus 5 times x plus 7. Okay, so that whole thing would become my least common denominator. And sometimes that happens, that there's nothing that matches. Okay? Any questions so far? All right, we are going to look at B. Okay, so all I'm still doing is just finding my least common denominator. Okay, just that step. That's all we're working on right now. So what do I need to do with these two denominators? Magic X. Okay, so let's do it together. So two numbers that multiply to 24 and add to negative 11. I heard 8 and 3. Is that right? Oh, negative 8 and negative 3. So this one here is x minus 8 times x minus 3. All right, I'm going to do this other magic X. So two numbers that multiply to 9 and add to negative 6. Negative 3 and negative 3. So this one is x minus 3 times x minus 3. All right, when I do my circling, I have to pick one out of each one of the rationals, not one within the same rational. Okay? So between the two rationals, is there anything that matches? X minus 3. I get to circle it. So I'm circling in blue 1x minus 3. Okay? How many times am I allowed to write something down that I've circled? 1. So I'm going to use one of those x minus 3s. Because if I use both of them, I am creating a polynomial mess for myself later. Okay? I'm trying to do the least amount of work. Okay? All right. I'm going to underline in red everything that's left. Okay? Everything that's in red gets written down. So x minus 8 times x minus 3. Does not matter the order. If you want, on your final answer, you want to be super fancy and write x minus 3 squared, you can. But I'm not quite there yet. All right. All we're doing, again, is just getting used to the LCD part. Okay, we're just doing that step. All right. Let's see what else. Let's see what this says. Okay. When is the LCD of two rational expressions not equal to the product of their denominators? Okay, so this first one was just a product of their denominators. Okay, what was different about this one? That it didn't just multiply the two denominators together. Why didn't I do that? Yes, they had a common factor. Good job. So when they have a factor in common, the least common denominator is not just a product of the two denominators. All right, so let's write that down. That was a really good answer. when the denominators have a common factor. That says denominators have a common factor. Thanks. Okay, any questions on that of what we've done so far? All right, there are 2 here for you to practice. So I want you to try on the next page the your turn 5 and the your turn 6. I'll give you about 2-3 minutes. Try doing just the LCD. That's as far as we're going. We're not doing anything more than the LCD right now. Try both of those right now. You guys, I put the staple in it to keep them organized. If you don't like the staple, you can rip it out. I don't What's wrong? I give you about 30-40 more seconds. Try both of them. Okay, let's take a look. Okay. All right, so what's the first thing I need to do to the denominators before I can get the least common denominator? Okay, we're going to do a GCF. So what's my greatest common factor of this first denominator? 8. What was left behind? Good. What was the least common denominator of the second, or sorry, GCF of the second denominator? 10. What's left behind? Good. All right, what would I circle in blue that matches? X minus 3. How many times do I get to write that? Once. Good. All right, and then, ooh, technically there's something else that matches, isn't there? Could I have broken these down? And if you didn't, it's okay this time. All right. Could I have broken that into 2 times 4 and 2 times 5? What would have matched there? 2. If I was going to get really detailed about this, right? And then my leftovers would have been 4 times 5. That was really tricky. If you wrote 8 times 10, I'm okay right now. Okay? But, because that's what I showed you, right? But because I didn't show you breaking the number down. But you could break the number down to get the least common denominator. Okay? All right, any questions on that before I'm getting the phone? All right, check number 6 with your table. Okay, since we haven't done 6 yet and you haven't talked yet, check 6 with your table. All right, did we check it? Okay, what type of factoring did I need in the first one? GCF. Okay, so what was my greatest common factor there? 15. Ooh, how many times? 4. Okay, and then what kind of factoring is this one here? Two numbers that multiplied to 20 and added to 9. 4 and 5. Oh, this would have been a plus, huh? So x plus 4, x plus 5. All right, what would I circle that matches? How many times do I get to write it? Once. And then I underline everything else in red. So 15 and x plus 5. I tend to put my numbers up front, right? Any questions on how to create a least common denominator? Okay. Here's what we're going to do next, okay? I want you to read that sentence and read the instructions, okay? All right. Okay. Talk about this. We're going to add and subtract. I'm not worried about us identifying excluded values. Huh? You'll probably be back. It'll be quick. Okay. So first thing I am going to do is I am going to find my least common denominator. Okay? So let's do that piece first. All right, I'm going to write it underneath a little fraction bar just like I was doing before. Can I do anything with this? Actually, I could write it as x times x, couldn't I? We did that with monomials yesterday when we were doing our multiplying and dividing. What type of factoring is this other one? Is there a difference? Is the second one a square? Okay. What's the first thing we always look for? GCF. What's my GCF? X. Great. What's left behind? X plus 1. Perfect. Okay. Same process we were doing before. Okay. I am going to write the LCD and I'm going to multiply by, or I'm going to circle what matches. So what matches in both denominators? One single x. When I circle it in blue, how many times do I write it down? Once. Good. Okay. I'm going to underline everything else in red. Again, I'm teaching process today, right? We've got to get the process of how to do these down. Okay. All right, I'm writing down the second x, and I'm writing down x plus 1. That's my least common denominator. Okay. If you want to label it out here, that was your LCD, that's the line that we did it in. Okay. I am now going to compare denominators. Okay, so I am going to look at this fraction right here and compare it to this least common denominator here. Okay, look at what I factored into. I cheated. I wrote it underneath, right? I was being lazy and not writing it a whole second time. Okay, I have an x. I have another x. What am I missing? X plus 1. So I need to multiply this one technically on the top and the bottom. I'm not going to use blue. I'm going to technically multiply the top and the bottom by x plus 1. Okay, so that means that I have to multiply a binomial times a trinomial. Doesn't that sound like fun? All right, I'm going to do some scratch work to the side to do that, because don't we need to get out the box? Isn't that how we did that the other day? So that stuff we were working on the other day comes right back. This is a book problem. The Delta math problems are easier. Okay, but that's okay. It's good to see a challenging one right off the bat. All right, so I'm going to go x plus 1 down the side. I'm going to go x squared plus 4x plus 2 across the top. It's good review, because this stuff is going to be on the quiz next week too. Okay. All right, what's x times x squared? X cubed. Good. X times 4x. Good. X times 2. Good. 1 times x squared. 1 times 4x. And 1 times 2. 2. Okay? I am going to look at my diagonals, right? So x cubed just stays x cubed. What's x squared plus 4x squared? 5x squared. Okay, and then I'm going to look at 4x plus 2x is what? Okay, and then just plus 2 at the end. So what this piece here became was what I got when I multiplied and made an equivalent fraction out of the my least common denominator there. Okay, I still haven't done the second half of this, right? I still have to do this one and compare it to here. Okay, tedious problems. This one's a little bit longer than most of them. Okay, all right, let's check in it. So I see an x. I get to keep an x, right? I see an x plus 1. What's missing? An x. So, oh, good. We only have to multiply by x this time, right? Technically, I've already done the denominator. What's x squared times x? X cubed. That looks much better, doesn't it? That was better than the first one. All right. All you're going to do now is combine like terms in your numerator. We are not going to try to cancel anything else with the denominator. Notice it's addition. I can't really cancel anything. Okay? So, and I'm not going to try to factor the numerator again. So all I see that's friends is 1x cubed plus 1x cubed. What do I get for that? Good. And then everything else is just getting written down. 5x squared plus 6x plus 2. And then the denominator, I would probably put x times x back as x squared times x plus 1. There was only 2 lines technically of work, but boy, we did a lot, right? We did a ton there. Okay. All right. The next one. Let's see what the next one is so much nicer. Okay. The next one switches from book problem to Delta math problem. Look at the font change. All right. We got the hard one out of the way. These ones should be better. Okay, you have to think about, there were a lot of steps, right? What was the first thing we did? We have to factor the denominators, right? And I'm going to make you write the steps down eventually, right? So we're going to factor the denominators because I'm trying to build the LCD. Do I need to do anything to this first denominator? No. What do I need to do to this denominator here? Good. So I need 2 numbers that multiply to 20 and add to negative 9. 10 and what? I heard 10. What goes with 10? Oh, can that work? No. Okay, what else could I use? Negative 5. Negative 4. Okay, I like it. So I'm just going to squeeze it under here, right? Because I'm cheating right now on a Friday. Because I don't really want to write that a whole second time. Make sure when you're writing out your problems, you leave yourself space to do that. Okay, it's okay. Don't write it super tiny. Use some space. All right, I'm going to create that least common denominator. Use a fraction bar, please. Okay? Don't get lost in the fact that I have a numerator and a denominator. Don't lose them. Okay? All right, I'm looking at the 2 terms. What matches? I'm going to circle that in blue. How many times do I get to write that down? Once. You guys, if you want to use the colored pencils, if that's helping you recognize it, you may use them on the quiz. If I forget to put them out, bug me. I will put them out. Okay? All right, I'm going to underline in red what's left over. And I'm going to write down everything that's underlined in red, which is just the x minus 5. Okay? Okay, we're ready to compare. I'm looking at this first fraction, and I'm comparing that denominator to this denominator. What's missing or different? X minus 5. So I need to multiply by x minus 5. Technically, haven't I already multiplied the denominator by x minus 5? Yeah, we took care of that in our LCD. Okay? All right, looking at what I have here, I've got a binomial times a binomial. What process should I use? We should use good old FOIL. If you want to come over to the side and do FOIL by a box, you may do that. Okay, your choice. Okay, I'm going to use FOIL. Okay? All right, so what's 5x times x? 5x squared. Good. 5x times negative 5. Negative 25x. 7 times x. Good. And 7 times negative 5. Negative 35. Okay, I have done that first term. Okay. I'm going to come over here and compare again. I'm going to wait and make sure we're all ready. All right, so I am comparing this denominator to this denominator. What's missing? Nothing's missing. So all I have to do is write down the numerator, but I got to be careful because look, there was a minus sign in there. I want to write down both the minus and the 3x. All right, what do you think we need to do now with the numerator? Combine like, it's back to algebra 1, right? So 5x squared, we got 25x. Let's see, I don't know what's, oh, this isn't, no, this is probably better. What's 7x minus 3x? 4x, negative 25 and positive 4. Negative 21x, and then I've just got a minus 35. And then we're keeping it. Do not FOIL this denominator back together. If you make a mistake foiling it, I am not giving you the credit for that. Okay, you will lose points rather than gain points. Okay, so make sure that you just leave it factored. Okay, any questions? All right, let me look and see what's left here. We still got something left. Okay. All right, we're going to step through the next one in kind of pieces, okay? I'm not going to have you do it all by yourself quite yet. So, what's the first thing we are supposed to do? Factor. Okay, everybody factor it. Do that step. Right now, factor it. Factor, factor, factor. We'll check the factoring here in a second. Make sure you're trying it. If you need Desmos for a calculator, that's okay. Okay, two numbers that multiplied to negative 40 and added to negative 3. What'd you get? Negative, oh, I'm doing it wrong. Negative 8, negative 5. Oh, wait. Just 5. Okay, so x minus 8, x plus 5. Okay, perfect. What are we supposed to create next? What's the name of the vocabulary there? We have to create the LCD. Okay, everybody do that. Just create your LCD. Do that step. Okay, what did you circle? X plus 5. How many times do we get to write it? Once. Okay. All right, and then we're underlining x minus 8, also writing that down. Okay. Now we have to compare our denominators. Okay. And look and see for missing parts of the denominator, and then we multiply by that. Okay. What's missing in this first denominator? X minus 8. So we're going to multiply by x minus 8. What's missing in the second denominator? Nothing. So you're just going to write down the minus 7x. Okay? When I have a binomial times a binomial, what am I supposed to do? All right, I've given you enough hints. See how far you can get in a minute. Okay, so FOIL, write down the minus 7x. See if you can combine like terms. You got this. You can do it. Try to get all the way to the end. Okay. Let's check it and see how we did. Okay? So I've got a FOIL. So what is x times x? X squared. X times negative 8. 7 times x. And then 7 times negative 8. Okay, and then I'm just going to take this negative 7x and write it down at the end. Okay? We're combining like terms. Ooh, what happens? What cancels? The 7x's, so I'm just left with x squared minus 8x minus 56 over x plus 5 times x minus 8. They see every problem seems to get a little better, right? They're definitely not as hard as that first ugly mess. Okay? All right. Any questions on how to do it? All right. I want you to try one. See if you can do one beginning to end on your own. Okay? Oh, look at it. It's a nice factored one. Look at how nice that is. Hopefully you remember that type of factoring. It's not even a trinomial. All right. See what you can do with it. Yeah. Yeah, you covered it. It was the operation with subtraction versus addition. Okay. Yeah. So if it's subtraction, just carry the sign. Everybody try it. Aiden, you haven't done yet? Have you started it yet? Okay, I want you to check it with somebody at your table, even if you're not done. Okay? Have a quick conversation. Okay, we're going to try something a little bit different, okay? So I want you to listen. We're going to do something at the same time because you already have it written down. I'm going to go over it, right? You need to listen to the words I'm saying, right? And as we're going over it, I want you to write the steps down out here, okay? So what are the steps? So you remember it kind of in your own words. I'm going to say the words, but I want you to put it in your words, okay? All right, so what's the first thing that we need to do? Factor. Okay, there's step one, right? One word, factor. You write step one down. I'm going to factor. So I'm factoring a difference of squares factoring, so it should be x plus 7, x minus 7. Okay, step one was factor. Oh, I should not have written that in blue. Sorry. Let me do that in black. X plus 7, x minus 7. All right. What's the next thing we need to create? We need to create a least common denominator. So like step one is factor, step two is LCD. Do you maybe need more detail in there on how to do that? So you remember what you're doing? Okay, so you might want to add a little bit more detail, like it's LCD, create LCD, and then step A, right? Do like that step down bulleted point list. Okay, it doesn't have to be sentences, but enough to remind you, okay? What did we circle? X plus 7 because it matches. So we circled what matched. Circled what matched, right? How many times do I write down what I circled? So one time we write down what we circled what matches. Okay? We underline in red everything else that's left behind. So I'm underlining in red the x minus 7 because that's what's left behind. Nothing else matched that. Okay? This is now kind of step 3, right? That was all the LCD stuff. We got the LCD. Step 3, I need to multiply by what's missing. I'm creating equivalent fractions, but I'm making it one big fraction. Creating equivalent fractions by multiplying by what's missing in the least common denominator. So I'm creating equivalent fractions by multiplying by what's missing from the LCD. Okay? So if I'm comparing this denominator to this denominator. What's missing? Look at what I highlighted in yellow. Are they different? No. So do I need to multiply by anything? No, I already have the least common denominator. All I'm doing is writing down the x. Okay? All right, I'm going to highlight again differently. Okay? Go away. There we go. Okay. I'm going to compare this one to this one. What's different? X minus 7. So I need to multiply by x minus 7. Okay? All right, I've got a binomial times a binomial. What process do I need to do? FOIL. You might need add that in there, creating equivalent fractions. You got to do whatever algebra you need to do, right? Sometimes it's a FOIL, sometimes it's a 2 by 3, sometimes it's just a monomial times a monomial. Okay, so it's whatever algebra I got to do. Okay? All right, help me out. What's 3x times x? Good. What's 3x times negative 7? Good. 1 times x. X, and then 1 times negative 7. Good. All right. This would be step 4 now. Okay? It's a 4-step process, apparently. What do I have to do with the numerator? What's that called? Combine like terms, and I would write down combine like terms in the numerator. Right? Combine like terms in the numerator. All right, I'm combining my like terms. 3x squared just going to get written down. Let's see, what's x plus x? 2x, and then negative 21 plus x would be, or 2x would be? Good, and then minus 7 just getting written down. Do not FOIL those denominators back together, just leave it. Okay? Any questions? Okay, there's one goofy thing that happens in the next 2, but we got to stop and do our quiz. The only thing here, just as a hint, in case this comes up when you're practicing, the denominator on this one is a 1. Okay? So that's part of your LCD. Okay? I'm not super worried about that one. All right? So we've got to clear off our desks so we can do our skills check quiz.